Hi everyone, this is Aisha Sarwari on yet another episode of a wonderful podcast. The name of this particular podcast is called Tumor, Woes. My therapist, Fatima, I'm very glad to have her. And by the way, if you don't see a therapist, please see them. And if you're sure that you don't need a therapist, then get two, because everybody needs a therapist or somebody to talk to, somebody to talk to about,
Someone.
somebody to turn to. And so she advised me that I was like, I'm heading towards my husband's second brain tumor surgery. I am struggling with my social connections. I think I'm going to die because I don't think I can handle this. The first one was so bad and the fallout was so bad. And I think it's not going to work out this time. And so she said, what would you rather do? I said, well, I wish I had a network of people who could support and help me. And so she said, have you asked anyone to be your network of support? And I said, no. So she said, then why are you complaining about being isolated? If you need something, ask for it. And I said, well, what am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to be like, oh, I'm in pain, can you support me? She was like, yeah, say that. And so I created a WhatsApp group of these beautiful, amazing women that you see here today, and some who are unable to join us. And I created the group and I gave an explainer. I was like, hey guys, you guys don't know each other. You're all people that I love and respect. And I really want you to love and support me through this really difficult period while I take my husband to Karachi during COVID and open up his brain while he's awake. And the surgeon removes his tumor and sends him back to me, and there's recovery. And then there's going to be chemo and radiotherapy. So I was like, and while I'm working, and I don't think I can do this. So can you please be there for me? And everybody said, I mean, obviously you received that message. I don't know what you guys felt. I'll go and ask you what you felt, but I felt that wo jo kehte hain na, ask and you shall receive. This is such a big example of that. I just asked, can you be there for me? And all of you were there for me. I think it's been 4 months now. We've had that WhatsApp group. And I've had about 5 panic attacks, and you've all seen me through them. So thank you. And I'll ask you, I think I'll start from, we'll go with Zarmene, Aamra, Kiran. What did you feel when you saw that message?
First thing I felt that I felt it was amazing that you had that courage to ask for help. I thought that, wow, that is beautiful. That is somebody just, especially a woman being just what she should be, having the courage to ask for help and getting everybody and getting all these women and saying, I need you people right now in my life and I need to talk to you. And that for me was, even for me, it was a learning. And I thought, oh my God, wow, she's done something so amazing that even I want to do. And it sort of happened. And, when everybody was talking about their own, in the middle, we come up with somebody saying, oh, mere bacche ka ye ho gaya hai, and somebody saying this and discussing things. I said, wow, just feeling it, just the release of having a place like that. Brilliant. I thought your courage had just just gone beyond. So it was amazing. That's what I felt. Yeah, that was amazing.
Aamra?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I'll just concur to Zarmene. I think alongside courage, I think you really show your vulnerability, Aisha, because there are many ways of handling such very difficult, challenging situations in life. But showing your vulnerability and seeking out was a beautiful gesture.
Beautiful. Absolutely.
What I felt was that we just came into that safe space alongside with you, where we also felt safe, and we also kind of, had with our own vulnerabilities, kind of stepped into that. So that's made it all beautiful. So I had my own laughters, and it became like a go-to place for me, just like that, even without knowing these beautiful ladies, right? I think it was amazing. Good job.
Yeah.
Kiran?
Yeah, I think vulnerability was for me. I think the fact that you were courageous enough to bare your vulnerability, that takes guts, man. That takes that's just wonderful. So and I feel really honored actually to be part of that. Like it's almost like a privilege. It's like, oh, she's made me one of those persons. I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
And I truly am filled with gratitude. I appreciate that about you.
And you know what's really strange is that we have different journeys together. Not all of the journeys and not all of the people that I know here knew me long enough or well enough, you know, like we've crossed paths like two train tracks, but we haven't really, you know, touched for too long. But even then, I thought each of you, and Mariam and Sadaf and Seher and Amna, you know, are not able to talk to us at the moment. Mariam's in Argentina, and Seher's at a birthday, at somebody's celebration, and Amna unfortunately cannot join us because she's driving, but she's here, she's listening to us. All of you had touched me but not taken, and left me with something extremely precious. So for Zarmene, it was like, you know, the teaching of meditation. For Amra, it was like, she's the only other corporate woman I know who has beautiful daughters, and as you can see, one of them is there, Maham. Let's just say hi to Maham.
Hi.
Hi Maham.
Hi, Maham.
How are you? Do you remember Aisha auntie?
Yes.
You still like unicorns?
Can see that.
Oh, yeah. So and I think with Kiran, it was just like when she was going through the period of losing uncle, and she nursed her dad and took care of him. I think it was like anybody who's gone through pain, grief, and relentless caregiving with zero resource rehabilitation, you know. Usually when men come from battle, you know, there's this huge celebration about, you know, garlands and all of that because they did something. But how is caregiving, which is so essential to life, not celebrated in that exact way? When somebody comes out of caregiving job, how is that not the most precious thing you can give someone? Something that doesn't require money, something that you need. You know, if you care for somebody in a bad way, there's nobody to tell the person is old, you know, and frail or unwell, you know. So you'll get away with murder, and there's so much power and there's so much responsibility, and yet you do it with your heart. So all you need is heart and love. So how is that not the most commendable human, you know, existence? And so all of you have done that. All of you have experienced that. And I think reaching out to you predominantly was because of pain, you know. And I think Sadaf's joined as well. Hi, Sadaf. How are you? Zarmene, I'm going to start with you with a couple of questions I have for everybody.
Okay.
What is caregiving? What does it mean to give somebody care?
You know, so for me personally, I think when you take on the responsibility of giving care for someone, and normally it's somebody very close to you, it's a parent or it's a child, or normally that's what happens. I think it's accepting the fact that your own life is being picked up and sort of cut away from your, you know, the calendar and the dates and everything that we have in life. Just stop. And for me, when I do, and I have done that in my life for a few people that mattered a lot to me, I realized that initially, you feel at times slightly sorry for yourself in the middle, and you're sort of feeling, you know, ek main hi hu, you know, nobody there to help me. That happens in the middle of it. But I realized that when I talk to myself about it, I change the conversation in my head. So I start every day when I used to be giving care, I remember thinking, what a blessing. How blessed I am to spend this time. So, you know, it's just changing that conversation for me really made a difference for me, just for me. So instead of coming out of it, even feeling that no help, nobody else is bothering, just me doing it, where is everybody else? Just that conversation in my head, which I just changed, you know, to saying, what a blessing. I'm so blessed to have this time with this person. I'm so blessed. So you have to sort of create the energy around you, you know, to make your life better. And I think for me, that was caregiving. You have to do that. And that makes it even more precious. It'll always be precious because you've given a part of yourself, you see. No matter it's a nurse to a patient they don't even know, okay? But even then, you have given a part of yourself, and that's a precious thing. Time is precious. Caring for someone is precious. That energy alone is very precious. But you can make it much better by having the right conversation in your head. And that's what I did for myself to get through it.
But I think, Zarmene, that's a very unique thing. That's a very Zarmene thing to do. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah,
I don't think
that's
a very Zarmene thing to do. I think you'll be put in the middle of a grotesque war, and you will make it just and kind. You know, you are that person. You have that energy. And it takes effort to think that way.
It takes effort. And you know, I don't think a lot of people realize that everything we do, even when we love someone, we do it for ourselves. It's not for the other person. This, you know, this feeling, oh, I love so and so. We feel we're doing so much because we love so and so. I've realized in this time of my life and my experiences in life, we do everything to please ourselves. Okay, so when you're doing everything, kind of love. We need it. And when you love, whether you're loving your children, okay, stop complaining. Well, you love them because you love them. It brings you joy and happiness to love them. Okay, stop saying that one's not giving me enough time and that one's not looking at me. Same thing with the man you love. Stop complaining because it gives you joy to love, because when it doesn't, you stop loving. Okay, when it doesn't, you will stop loving that person. Okay,
and you leave.
So
either emotionally or physically or some way.
Emotionally or physically, or even if you're there, your energy is not of love. So it's very important to understand that we do everything for ourselves. So that conversation matters, because in the end, the energy that we create around ourselves is what is going to bring forth what's happening in our life. For me, that's what matters. I have seen that if I go with a certain energy anywhere, that's what's happening. That's what comes to me. You know, it's what you give to the universe that it sends back, type of thing. So
that's incredible. And like I said, that's a Zarmene thing to do.
Zarmene, can you actually create the energy around you? I mean, you can do that?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So if I'm feeling in the dumpster and I know that the energy around me is all wrong, how do I then create the right energy to move forward?
What I do, which is brilliant, which is, I think, the only way to change your energy. So if I am feeling something awful has happened, or I'm in the dumps, or somebody said, I can do it mentally, it's up to you, or take a book out, a notebook out, and start writing things in life that you're grateful for. That's it. Gratitude
is the pivot.
I promise to you, by the time you come to the 10th thing, initially I had to write it down when I started this process. So I write number 1, my feet, my eyes, my ears, my hearing, my lips, my skin. You know, I'm thin. Okay, all the things that matter to you, that you think, oh my God, you know,
very well.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful for. So I have a home. I have air conditioning. I have hot water when I'm bathing. So when I would come down to the 10th, 12th, 15th, that energy was totally gone. Totally. No, and just try it and see how quickly that energy goes. It just goes like that. You have to
really
remember
cute story of Zarmene. I once met her. I think we met at Mocha, Zarmene. I was like, I need to meet you because I need to be. So every time I'm like dying, I'm like, Zarmene, I need to meet you. And so she'd tell me, go hug a tree or go sit in a tree. Go like, or she would. And then that day, I think you had manifested a quote.
Yeah.
I know it sounds woo-woo, but hear me out. So Zarmene was like, I saw this really beautiful, like it was like some nice material, nude colored, a sweaterish coat, long coat. And she's like, I'm so happy because I manifested it. And I was like, where did you manifest it from? And she's like, well, I saw it and I told myself I will find it. And lo and behold, I think that you were telling me a story about how somebody found it.
Yeah, my brother got it in London.
So that's Zarmene for you. Like, you go sit next to her, you feel like a miracle's happened. It's the hardest work to create and that energy and to convert it, but she is a great converter. She's a great
I'm blessed.
Force.
Yeah.
So Kiran, I wanted to come to you next. Zarmene said caregiving is something that you have to reframe as an opportunity, as a blessing, because it takes your life, it takes your childhood, it takes your Javani, it takes your life, it takes your parenting years, depending on who we're caring for. And let me just say that Zarmene did not necessarily care for the people she was biologically supposed to care for. We have a biological responsibility to our parents to care for them in their old age, to our children, to our spouses. Zarmene has cared for people that are not in that category. And let me just say that that kind of open-heartedness that she's given is just very rare. Whoever received it is kind. But Karen, tell me, what is it like to reach what you called, quote unquote, the finish line? Because, Uncle ko Allah Miya Jannat Naseeb Kare, you took him for many years because he had a very debilitating disease. Talk to us about that, the finish line.
Yeah, so he was a very strong spirit in a very weak body. So he had ALS, and for those who are not familiar, in ALS, the brain stays alive, but the nerves start giving away. So the body starts giving away. So if you want to move this finger, your gratitude thing, I hear you. If you want to move this finger, for him, it was this massive effort to move the finger. And aista, things started giving away. So it was a very slow process. What I loved is that I never saw my father feel sorry for himself, which I think is absolutely brilliant. I said, "Main hoti to यूं बैठी हुई होती कि मेरी मदद करो, मैं victim." Never the victim. So again, I think that gave me a lot of strength. What it was like seeing him to the finish line, well, for all of those 5 years, I personally was determined to reciprocate the energy that he gave. So he was fighting that ALS full on. That, right, I see you ALS in the face, and I will still have the will to live. And that is what had to be. However, in the process, the only way I could do it, I unfortunately didn't go down the gratitude path at all. I went down this is my responsibility. I'm going to do it. And if I have to have some emotions, I don't need to have them with my dad. He's dealing with his own shit. I will deal with it in my house, in my space. In front of him, I'm going to bring whatever positivity I can, because I'm not going to feel sorry for him in front of him. I ain't doing that. So I became the manager. So I've told you this, Aisha, किसी को fire करना है, किसी को hire करना है, टमाटर के भाव पता करने हैं, savings certificate के profit क्या है, वो सब मेरा काम था. But the moment my sister or somebody else would enter, it would be like this lovely joy. And I'll be like, "Hello, what about me? नहीं तू जा, तू profit and loss statement ले आ." But I love that, because I was that person for him, where he knew that if the shit hits the fan, she'll sort my shit out. And I was always that person till the very end. I remember my first big cry that he is definitely going didn't happen looking at his face. It happened because I was constantly looking at the urine bag and his kidney just stopped and there was nothing coming out. And it was like all very medical, if you know what I mean. It wasn't like this beautiful, joyous connection with him. It was till the end, it was very, very clinical. It was the fight mode. And even after he passed, I think I remember having a little confrontation with an aunt, because she said, "You haven't slept. You need to take it easy. Your brother and your sisters are here. They'll take over now." And I said, "No, the funeral thing, I'm going to go over there. I'm going to make sure the arrangements are fine." And she's like, "Well, you don't need to." I said, "Yeah, I know they're there. I need to do it. I need to see him through. I will see him through all the way till he actually rests in peace, and no one's stopping me." And actually, she was wonderful. She came back to me later and said, "I see that, Kiran, now. I see that you did the 5 years, and I see you wanted to do that last day as well, all the way. So call me a control freak, call me a manager, call me anything. But that's how I saw it through. That was my relationship with him.
Kiran, with your permission, can I share something that I saw at Uncle's house?
Sure.
So Kiran was kind enough, when I was coming to Karachi for Yasser's brain tumor surgery in May 2020, obviously this year. And I say that because I forget timelines, chunks of my life have actually been taken and thrown away. I don't remember what year it is or what day it is. So anyway, May 2020, we were driving from Islamabad to Karachi in a car, because obviously there was COVID, the flights were grounded. And And I was thinking, it was so kind of Kiran to reach out to me and be like, you are not going to dare stay in a hotel, and you're going to stay at my dad's house because it's empty. And it's empty because I don't have the heart to go in and clean up his things, and whatever, for whatever reason it's empty. You're going to come live with us. It's an empty house, so you got to come. You and Yasser stay there and isolate there, because we needed a place for recovery. We needed something for post-op. And when I was there, we were checking which room to be in, and obviously saw Uncle's room, because it was almost the same as it would be when he was, in his last few days. The bed was higher. There were, medical stuff around. And on
the smell must be there, na? Dawaiyon ki smell.
जो होती है. And yet the whole place was permeated with his will. I don't know if दीवारों के अंदर आप चीजें absorb कर सकते, but I sensed him and I felt him, because I was with Kiran, at least in spirit, when she was fighting that. And I once called her and I told her, we talked about grief. And so it really felt like a father figure. And in the corner of the bookshelf, I just want to give you an example of Kiran's perfect project directorate. उसके ऊपर एक sheet थी, like a piece of paper, that was divided into 6 sections, and it had instructions like I'm hungry, something, feed me, so it's like blink or point to which of these things you want. So
because he couldn't speak.
Yeah, because he couldn't speak. And so I would imagine he would point at, I'm hungry, I want to eat, I want to go to the bathroom, blah blah, whatever. But the last one, मैं बहुत से इसकी मार के रोई थी, because the last one said, leave me alone. And how incredible is it for Kiran to understand her father to such a depth, to understand his will and his independence, and to retain it even when he couldn't speak. And I just looked at it and broke down, because I was like, what a beautiful, of course, a beautiful father figure, but what a beautiful daughter. I think that was wonderful. That was extraordinary.
Yeah. And Kiran, to keep the dignity of the person. That for me, in caregiving, which a lot of time people are not sort of in awareness when they get into the illness, is to maintain that person was had a personality and had a presence, and somebody there, the person who's caring, has to keep the dignity of that person, for that it's retained till the end, which was something that I had to also was very aware of with the person I was caring for, my ex-father-in-law. And I'll never forget that it mattered so much to me, because they're powerful people as human beings, when they're and your father figure, and even my own father, strong and everything, and suddenly they're just in a different place, and you have to that dignity is what is so important. I love the way you write. Leave
the next question about the fact that, of course, by the way, I haven't seen a better mother than Aamra. She's an extraordinary mother. You can see how she deals with Maham, and she's a working mother, so she's the alpha, in a world full of male alphas who don't deserve to be there. She is an extraordinary male alpha, female alpha, and everything alpha that I know. And yet she is the softest, kindest mother that I know. Aamra, what role does the loss of mothers bring into caregiving as a good parent?
That's an interesting one. I wasn't expecting this question. So okay.
Well,
I lost my mother when I was 16, and she had breast cancer, and I was very young, and she had a relapse. When I look back, I think, Alhamdulillah, I've been really very fortunate in terms of learning a lot of things from her. And that is something I, kind of stand for when it comes to the motherhood. So I think caregiving as a mother is, Aisha, if I understand your question correctly, you're asking that as a caregiver and the mother, what is what is the relationship? You're asking as a mother, as when you're giving care. So what is
for somebody, and I've never asked you this, which is why it's a great idea to put somebody in front of a camera and make them uncomfortable. I think that you're such a good mother because you valued motherhood so much because you missed out on it.
Frankly, I don't. I really, I think I have a lot of
memories.
I'm one of those working mothers who say that I have that guilt. I mean, and as the time has passed by, and these I have 3 children, and my elder twins are now 11 years old, and in this whole sort of journey of career build and home and being caregiver, what I really now want is a grip on my own time. So I really envy those women and those mothers who have a grip of their own time. They can decide that, what kind of schedule they will lead, how they will prioritize their day, and how will they go about their day. And I think, so I think practically speaking, I think I still sort of miss out on a lot because being working and being and being ambitious. But I feel that life is such a beautiful journey that it kind of unfolds in a way that you unleash your own self. So even if you were very ambitious and you were competitive, and then you wanted to reach somewhere and be someone, and those goals and all of those, I think life is such a beautiful story in itself that it kind of unfolds you and tells you that who you are and what you stand for. So I think that's the beauty. At least, alhamdulillah, I don't feel now very guilty of all this and don't feel shame, because now I know far more better of who I am and what I stand for. But yeah, this caregiving on the motherhood side, I think, frankly speaking, this is what we say, that you can have it all, you can't have it all. I think this is all kind of those kind of words and jargons. I think the balance comes in when you just kind of as I said, that take a situation and give its due. And that's where we kind of become very sort of because at one point in time we said that, oh, multitasking is everything. We started doing multitasking, right? We are the multitaskers. But now the world is saying that no, multitasking is BS. You need to be present in a moment. To do it more creatively, you need to leave the multitasking. I think there's a lot of and then the kind of workplaces that we have, the workplace design, the org design, the job design, everything has been done for one gender because they were in majority. So we are still struggling through those kind of balancing and being super women that doing it all. All the younger women so far, my team members and the young graduates I hire, they always ask me that, okay, Aamra, how did you do that? You have twins. How are you sort of how are you raising your twins and doing all of this? I think we have struggled. हमने मार खा के सीखा है, honestly, if you ask me. But thankfully, the life was beautiful enough to unfold it in a very kind way to us. That's what I would say.
I know you're very close to your dad. I know uncle is somebody you take career advice from. You always like, oh, maine Abu se baat ki. I asked him, so we're in the middle of anything complex and I'll be like, oh, I asked Abu and he said this.
Yeah.
It's something that I was talking to somebody who was an ex-boss of mine who recently lost his mom. And I asked him, I was like, how do you stop yourself from grieving beforehand? Because I feel like sometimes I do that with Yasser. It's called ambiguous loss, because sometimes he's not well, sometimes he is, sometimes he's himself, sometimes he's not. And he comes and goes, right? And so to kind of maintain my sanity, sometimes I think I kind of prematurely kind of am like, I put him into the unwell category, when sometimes mashallah he's absolutely brilliant and he's writing books and he's doing things, but I don't, and I kind of prematurely grieve the loss of having somebody who's not consistent because he has a brain tumor. It's a fact. Do you feel sometimes you worry so much about him that it's like his age or his creeping unsteadiness worries you, because you've already lost a parent? And I think from psychology, we know that one parent, when they're absent emotionally or physically, the other parent becomes extremely complicated for us. and important.
Yeah. Aisha, frankly speaking, I think this is the, if you ask me, I think I carry this biggest fear in my subconscious mind, because my father, he is so very encouraging through this time that when am I going to Karachi, when the movers and packers are coming in, what is the rent of the house, where is the house, where is the office, how far is it. So he knows like everything, and he's sitting in US right now. So I think he doesn't give that feeler, so he has been all around me and has never given me a feeling that my mother is not there. Otherwise, you know um, it was very easy for my, because I'm the youngest in the family, it was very easy for me to gotten married way back and far, with far less education and with far less exposure. I think I have never sort of given it much thought. But yes, as I am moving now away from Abu, because Lahore, Islamabad was very convenient. Now that I'm moving far away, now I'm like feeling, and then I'm making my own plans, because he's also telling me, Amra, how many rooms do you have in the house? I said 4. He said, okay, I can come in one of the rooms. I, yes. So I think that's what it is. But yeah, but I think the physical distance makes you feel that you'll be away. But Aisha, there is this particular wound that you have regarding your loss of a parent specifically. uh, this kind of grows with age. It grows, it deepens, it kind of has its own roots. It shows in many ways, completely unanticipated ways as well. I've seen many of them. The good thing is that you become aware of them, and then the good thing is that people like all of you kind of come together and kind of put sort of the put something on the bruises, and then you heal. So that's, I think that's what it is. Aisha, can't hear you. Are you on mute?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Technology fail. I was saying, I think what's really brilliant about how you forge your relationship with your father is that he is invincible. And it's so beautiful to watch, because no matter how old you are, your parents are your, like your super people. Sadaf, I have always wondered one thing about you, which is that you're an extremely gentle person. I've never seen your decibels increase by a certain level. Pakistanis speak at a volume and a tone that is, I think, 100x more than you would find in, say, I don't know, probably they're close to Italy, but they're loud people. And your decibels are low. You speak very conscientiously. You speak in a measured way. Even today, Sadaf had a pool thing with her two beautiful kids in the backyard, and she was like, "Hey, that's a flower. Would you like another one? Don't break it." So that's her tone. And I was like, "You don't beat them. You don't yell at them. You're like, you don't do that to your kids." And I wanted to ask you the role of anger when it comes to caregiving, because I think we all know disproportionately women do the triple duty. We all know what a triple duty is. It's when you do housework, you do work in the economy, and you also carry emotional burdens. Like, Pupo is not well and she's not talking to me, go talk to her. Or so and so is upset at you, go fix it. The fixing of the emotional issues in a household always belong to the woman. And when she fixes it, it's like, oh, what a beautiful woman. We knew she would bring peace to our household, right? As if these things are even related. Don't you get angry? And how do you deal with anger?
No, I do. I think the thing for me, I have been very lucky in finding someone who actually shares the burden. Unfortunately, he also becomes the person on which my anger comes out, and like it's the same for him as well. I become the person on whom his anger comes out. But the thing is, like, I grew up with a father who had serious anger issues. So with kids, I delayed having kids because I wanted to be sure that I'm in that space where my own issues, I had a handle on my issues, and I make a conscious effort to make sure that there's no spillover. I'm not saying there's never, there always is, obviously. I'm human, but having had a childhood where a father would get angry if the child is laughing too loudly, for example. I'm very conscious of how kids react. I get very conscious if, even if Asad and I are having a discussion and we get loud in when we are having political discussions. And I can see their expressions change in an instant, and they're like, why are you fighting? And like, we are not fighting, we are discussing, but like, why is your voice high? So I just think that I'm conscious about that. But there is anger, obviously, and especially in these days, last 6-7 months have been so difficult because we're all shut down. They don't have any outlet. We live in apartments, so they have not been running around like they have physical energy. And there's obviously work, there's no help. And even with Asad and I working together, it just gets to be too much because we both run an organization together. So when the workload is high on me, it's also high on him because the organization has a deadline. So the ups and downs at work we have to face kind of together. So it is difficult, and I was just telling Aisha today that my patients start wearing thin around 6-7, and by 8 I'm praying like I hope these two go to sleep as quickly as possible because I'm so close to losing my shit right now. But yeah, I think it's difficult. I think carrying that pace throughout the day it's difficult, and it does come out. I think it takes a toll on our relationship sometimes, like from my end at least. Because by end I feel so spent that I find myself struggling to be nice or like even be communicative. So I do feel that anger kind of has stopped me from being a more communicative person. I struggle to find the strength to find the right words at the right time, and it's easier to just think and let go.
Yeah, makes sense, Sadaf. And Zarmene, because you are our resident guru in this group, because
I wish.
you are the wisest, like hands down. I don't think anyone could compete for that position in
The
this
old,
group.
I think I'm the oldest, but I don't know about the wisest. But I'm
You,
definitely the
you will, like, if we were ever to stand in a lineup, you're going to like win the Turkey's best most beautiful woman contest for sure. You're the most beautiful, even if you're a grandmother. So, like the anger that Sadaf spoke about, I wanted to ask you something that in our society we don't talk about. What about parents or elders who are unlovable? People who have so much trauma in their past that they hurt younger people, either through their emotional blackmailing or physical violence or, you know, discrimination or humiliation or gaslighting, any of those psychological wars that a lot of older people, women and men. I know a friend of mine who's very close to her father, but he's abusive towards her. Like every time he's angry at her, he would cut finances, for instance, or he could be abusive towards her mom. Like he would just abuse her about her mother, or he would, for example, just say you're not raising your kids well. There are people who do that to their own sons. Sometimes they're just not. So, what do you do with older people who behave like criminals?
Well, Aisha, firstly, it depends obviously how old you are yourself. If it's happening to a young child, then obviously the person around, whether it's the other parent or a family member, they have to intervene. And obviously the child cannot do anything. They're stuck there, right? Until they come to a certain age. Once I think we are older, I'll talk from that point of view. When you're older, you're independent, or even not maybe independent, but you're there and you can separate yourself from that abuse or that violence or whatever you've been through. I feel that apart from obviously getting your help and getting your therapy, one way to look at it is always see that anybody who causes you pain in your life, whether it's through language or abuse or ridiculing you, I find that that what it always comes from something they're carrying themselves. Okay, if you can look at people and straightforward, instead of get insulted, okay, or so and so said this to me, or whether it's your husband, whether it's a father or your mother, I know you have to be evolved, you have to grow up, it's not something children can do, out of the question. But at a certain stage, if you look at it and you say, this person is coming from their own pain and their own baggage that they carry,
and it's got nothing to do with me. You see, that's a teaching. Again, it's something that we have to learn, especially if you're going through it. You know, I have not experienced it, so I can say it very easily. But but people who have, from my students, and when I talk to them, I found that it's really helped them to be able to look at that older person, parent, whoever is behaving like that, sometimes husbands, and even wives for a husband. I've got one student who's having a tough time. So, and I say that you look at, and when they do look at that baggage, first of all, when they look at them feeling sorry for them instead of feeling anger at them, they somehow, it's something that they shed off the responsibility of themselves, because normally when somebody's being like that with you, you think something's wrong with you, especially if it's a parent or it's, even a spouse. It's always there's something wrong, you're blaming yourself. So the blame goes away. I think that part of it is very, very important. Apart from, of course, separating yourself from, if you can and you have a choice.
Can you talk to us about separation? Because look, in Pakistani households and Desi households, you can't really separate. You're usually the caregiver. So if somebody is being abusive and you are within the same vicinity and you're responsible for them, like children are responsible for their parents or their elders or their grandparents. How does separation work? How does emotional separation work? And is there a way you can separate yourself even though you're in the same proximity, for instance? And how do you tell people to have a boundary? White people like boundaries. It doesn't work in our system. Thapar padti agar hum boundaries create karte hain.
See, again, Aisha, I think every situation is unique. Okay, so depending, if I'm the child and the parent is abusive, obviously I have no control. I don't have control depending on my age. I need an adult to come and help me, whether it's the other parent or someone else. But if I'm older and I'm a spouse, for instance, or I'm an older child, like I'm an adult child, like, there are children I know who are 30, 40 years old who still have issues with the parents, right? Then I can take that situation of talking to this person. If the person is not understanding that I have a boundary now, this is not acceptable to me, then even in a relationship, I think even in a marriage, I find the best thing is first get away from there. You can't, we keep thinking we can change everything. Okay, we'll do some magic wand and bilkul aadmi bhi badal jayega or situation. So first of all, we need to separate from that place. Get out of there. Don't accept abuse. Even see what you do with children. Even if a child is being out of line or out of thing, they teach you separate from it. Cut down. Okay, time out right now. Don't let it ever get to the space, I feel, where you let the person abuse, get right to the end, and then you have your action. No, before it even begins, this is beginning. I'm going out of the room, I'm going to the garden, I'm doing something else. You don't have to be clear always with certain people. You can't. If it's a parent or something, find excuses. Get out of that space as much as you can. You see, I find that separation we can in our society do.
I love the fact that Kiran had that leave me alone option. I wish women had a signboard that they could just pull out of their purse and just be like, leave me alone. Leave me alone. I wanted to come to Aamra before I come to Kiran again. Aamra, what is it like when people become petty? So a lot of, there are two schools of thought. They're like, oh, focus on the big stuff. Petty stuff doesn't matter, right? Choti choti cheezein, don't sweat the small stuff. It's about the macros. It's about health, education, stuff like that. And then there's a school of thought, and similar to the ones Zarmene has, is that everything is about the small stuff. It's the atoms that matter most. And that is, when you go in and when you go deep, that is when your big stuff gets fixed. What's your take on that? But your mic is mute, by the way.
So I think I just love what Zarmene said, and I was just thinking through it that it's very important to draw the boundaries and then kind of stick to it also. हम खुद भी बहुत ज़्यादा गंगो हो जाते हैं ना, then नहीं नहीं ठीक है, you know, I mean, we always, I don't know, but if I talk about myself, I am the one who generally believes that everybody, I can trust everyone. So I come from that mindset where I trust people till they kind of do something that I don't trust them, right? So I don't start with distrust. I start with trust. I put that currency in that bank account, you know, make it a saving account, and then see how it goes along. So, but then what I found out over the years is that the world doesn't work like that, right? People start with distrust, and you have to do a lot in order to prove yourself, in order to be there, in order to work hard and show your commitment. And at the end of the day, you know, does it really matter? Really, you know, I think it was Zarmene who was saying that you just tell yourself, I don't mind. In the smallest of the things, if you keep looking at the bigger, shiny things, the joy is always in the smallest of the things. So if I am not enjoying the day to day grind of my life, I am in a misery. No matter what kind of, you know, big goals or, you know, bigger things and the vision that it doesn't matter. It's very important for me, you know, as I kind of, you know, turn into 40, and I, you know, proudly say that, it became very clear. It's very important. How do you start your day? What kind of mindset you have? Or what kind of conversation you're doing? How do you sit with yourself in terms of how comfortable you are in your skin? We all are very imperfect beings, but really we get to enjoy with those people who are comfortable in their skin, with their imperfections, with their bruises, with their, you know, kind of all the heartburns and the joys that they have seen in their lives. And that's what life makes it beautiful. We had those bad days when I'm scolding my kids, like you've said to me that you're such a no, but I've scolded my kids today. I was doing a final presentation on a training program, and it was very important for me. Although when it finished, I was like, yeah, you know, it had to finish. Why was I so much, you know, kind of, you know, tough on myself? I think one thing that I realized is that the kind, I don't know, Aisha, I think this is where, you know, maybe our part of the journey is the children who were brought up in 80s and, you know, late 80s type, right? They had a lot of pressure to prove themselves, you know, being, you know, among the top lot, you know, doing their best, giving their best, taking the kind of, you know, the best scores, and, you know, doing everything in that way. Although I was a tomboy for sure, you know, but still I think we just kind of took that pressure in order to, you know, just to sort of, you know, go back to your question, to have those lofty goals. But then the life happens, and when life happens, then you realize that how do you enjoy this particular very moment? You know, how do you smile when you look into your eyes, you when you know, even, you know, if you even if you don't speak and you just remain silent, how do you feel? It becomes very important.
Kiran, what are those moments for you when the small stuff seeps into your life? Like, you know, again, I want to give an example. The Kardashians, I think, call it self-care. But since we're Desi women, what does self-care look for you?
You got me at a point where I kind of forgot that I was doing the triple duty, and I was really struggling and not being able to do it. I think the other thing I struggle with is that I'm a fixer, I'm a doer, I'm a solution maker. So in some ways, my dad's situation really satiated that, and I can't do that anymore because there was a certain set of control I had over that situation, which I don't have anymore. So yeah, so that self-care was playing on my mind, and a long conversation with the therapist yesterday, in fact. So this morning at 5 o'clock, I went for a 5K run, and I hadn't ran since April. And I think by kilometer 3, I wanted to kill myself. And I was thinking, what are you doing? Why aren't you sleeping? That's also self-care, damn it. You know? But at kilometer 5, I broke something. I broke this disgustingness that I was reaching a point where, because that self-care wasn't there, I wasn't feeling beautiful. I wasn't feeling good, and I didn't know what it was. And the worse you feel, the worse you get. I just you sort of spiraling downwards, and it just becomes like, I was tying my head in the morning and then opening it at night to sleep, and nothing in between, and it has to stop. So 5K in the morning and new eyebrows at night. That for me is my new
Give a round of applause, please, for that. 5K is like Kiran, I think you said something really important, and I wanted to go back to what happens when a control freak gets her projects taken away, right? And it happens to me. So I have something called high functional anxiety. So I'm always anxious. It's always, my anxiety is always up here. You can't tell because I'm high functioning. I'm either moving my leg, or I'm thinking of something, or I'm planning something, or I'm like, and you guys saw this. I think I was very depressed, very anxious, very unwell during the whole period of Yasser. And yet I kept doing things. And you were like, why, like, Aisha, switch off, like, And so this also happened with Yasser, where I was obsessed over his medication table. And I was complaining to his therapist, by the way, when we had a marriage counseling session, that I have to put his pills in his mouth. Why doesn't he take care of it himself? And I was complaining about something that when he stopped giving me, when he finally started taking his pills again, I felt unloved, because I was like, ab meri zarurat nahi hai, and what do you do if you're not a caregiver, or what do you do if, what is your identity if you're not useful? I've always struggled with this. Agar मैं किसी के लिए कुछ कर नहीं रही, तो फिर why would anybody love me? It's this really strange paradox where I think it's being an 80s kid that Aamra talked about, which is that why are you taking up oxygen in the world if you're not working right now? And we see this with women. Like, I've always seen my mom watch TV and also peel her peas, or do something, because it's like, whatever, there's no concept of chilling. This is like, we don't chill. We don't sit without an agenda and be like, okay,
there's almost guilt there if it's doing nothing. Yeah.
Is there something like that? And maybe you can add, and then all of us can chip in if we feel that. Like, what's our use? Like, how do you be loved for
on this
or just for existing? Like,
start for this. I'll just share an anecdote. So I just left my job, and I was just sort of chilling out, so to say, and I was so looking forward to this period that before you start doing another job, and you just have left job. And I just told my husband a week back. So I said, Mubashir, I just feel that if I am not being useful to anyone around myself, I feel useless. And this was like complete identity crisis, right? That kisi ke kaam nahi aa sake if I'm not doing anything. So this is like doing versus being, that we completely failed. Yes, Kiran.
I'll say something.
I hear you.
Yeah. So we don't know how to be still. Being still is an art on its own. And I think, yes, again, to that generation that was like that, and maybe that's the way we are, but women especially, I find, even myself, with all my meditation and all my practices and all my knowledge on these things also, I have to tell myself, be still, it's okay, just be still. And I say it a lot to myself, just stop. The word I use for myself many times is stop. And I'm just sitting there and doing normal whatever, and I just say stop. And
your inner person listens to your inner person. When I tell my inner person to stop, it shows me the middle finger. It's like, you stop yourself. It really talks back to me. It's a horrible person.
Yeah. So this is it. I had times in my life when it did not. Exactly like that I felt guilt, I felt emotionally upset that I am not doing something, if it's cleaning or anything. If I now clean, it's really the joy of cleaning that I clean for. I make cleaning a joy, not because I have to, or it's something. For me, what I have learned to do is for that stillness. And it's a book by Eckhart Tolle, by the way. It's one of my most favorite books of his. And when I even listen to it when I can't sleep, so I just put the audio and I sleep like a baby, because it's so important to have that power. It's a power to say stop, and be able to stop and feel that moment and see that moment. And it's again, it's a learning. It's because we have unlearned all this. We all knew it. All of us, when we were born, if you look at babies, they are absolutely from source. They know how to do all these things that we are now talking about. We then unlearned what we knew and came into this world with, and got all these new habits, which we have to now unlearn again to evolve and get into a better place. And stillness is what we have to, for all this, this knowing that, okay, why aren't we doing anything? Oh God, we are not, useful. Why am I not doing anything? How come I don't have something to do right now, So in our programs that we do, so there's this course that is an advanced course after the one I teach. I don't teach the advanced course. We have 2 teachers in Pakistan. And that's silence for 4 days, okay? We put you into silence for 4 days. And I have had students who says, we just can't do that, Zarmina. 4 days, 3 days, even 3 days, we can't. The mind will, and no books, no TV, no nothing. You just have to be with yourself. And, the senior teachers like Naeem and all, they've done it for like 10 days. And I wonder, when I went to my first silence, I just couldn't believe that it's possible. Yeah, it's just not possible to be silent. How can you silence the mind? But it happens. And when you go into, I suppose for me, this is how it's happened. The amount of, I've done many silent courses, attended many. And in the process, I've learned to just be still, be silent. It's just stop. Stop is very easy. And I'm a very fast person. I talk fast, I eat fast, I do everything fast. But so, for me to become stop is something. And I think it's very important to, it's again a learning. It's a learning. You have to learn it. Just be still.
Zarmena, let me ask you if you feel like you need to do something to be loved when you're still enough.
I used to. No, I used to, because I had this issue from childhood. It came that I have to do something to be loved. If I'm not useful, I can't be loved. Okay, so that came to me. It's sort of, I grew up with it. And, it stopped when I started loving myself. So it's you have to have that, you have to come to a point where you have that love affair with yourself. To the point where there is a beautiful story of a king, Janaka, and he was a very evolved master, and he was with one of the saints. And when he got married, he married a woman who was powerful enough to say, in those days, when he said, who will you bow to? And she said, first I'll bow to myself. So you see, you are complete when you love yourself, when you're in love with yourself. That's when that's when you can sort of, I think, be able to give others so much from a good space, from that powerful space, because you love yourself. And it's so easy. I never did. I have to be very honest. I never did. I used to take about 100 faults. I can't even tell you. I could write a book on fault. But where did I learn it and how did I learn it? Was gratitude. You see, when I started feeling and listing down the gratitude and the blessings of my life, and yes, I know some people have to search for them more, to find that blessing. Okay, which one is the blessing? And some are blessed that they can find 100 million. But everybody, even that, beggar on the street can find blessings. So if you go into gratitude, it's what's taught me. Gratitude has taught me how to love myself. And to love myself first. And to love myself, wow, okay? And that's when you, I think, can, come to that.
So there's this really interesting podcast, which I hope you guys all check out. It's by the author of Eat, Pray, Love.
Yeah.
So she says, Gilbert, I think, yeah, something Gilbert,
Yeah.
Elizabeth Gilbert, yeah. She has a podcast where she talks about fears. And she says that you should always respect your fear, but you should never let your fear drive your car. And when you should, the only way I think, Zarmene, you get silence is not because you haven't had letdowns. I think your life has those. I think what happened was that you gave a voice to your fears. You heard them out. And the difference between somebody who lives from a place of negativity versus a person who lives from a place of positivity is because they've let their fear, they've heard them out, कि मैं आप कहाँ हैं और कहाँ जाना है, but they haven't let them live their life. Like the whole thing with Yasser, I think I was so fearful. Remember, there was this one time I was like, I can't do this. In fact, I think there were 4. I was like, I wrote to you guys. I was like, I can't do this. This is too much. This is too much pain. It's asking too much from me. I don't know if he's dehydrated and I should put him into ICU again or bring him home. What if he dies if I decide? And this is too much responsibility. The other time I was like, I can't do this because Yasser is upset at me. And how dare he be upset at somebody who's taking care of him? You know, I'm like, ek to main ye kar rahi hu, admit rahi hu, and now he's like this. And then I think there were 2-3 other times when at Al Khan, they were not admitting him and I kind of broke down, you know. And I think those were all moments where I was like, I cannot do this. I do not deserve this. I don't have the ability to deal with this. I am going through too much. I am too weak. I am suffering because I deserve all the pain. So let everything break down. But I think what really helped was all of you reminded me, like, yeah, you're right. This is pathetic. Yes, it is, you know, this is too much. But because you allowed that fear legitimacy is when I didn't take action on it. I was like, oh, okay, take it. It is messed up. And now I can go back to my life. You know, it was beautiful. Absolutely. Where I wouldn't have had that ability to, you know, not put it in the driver's seat hadn't you guys been like, yeah, it is pretty terrible. So closing words, my beautiful ladies, on all of you. And before we close, let me read what Seher has to say. Because Seher isn't here, unfortunately, but she has sent a little message for our WhatsApp group. And what I'm going to do is I am going to try and do something cool like screen sharing. I believe you can screen share. 1 second. In the meantime, can you all tell me what your favorite Tumor woes moments were?
Shall I go first?
Yes.
So it was one day you asked that, you know, what's some question that you wrote. And it was a very difficult day at the work and I was just coming back. So while I was driving back, I started reading. It's dangerous, I know, a health and safety hazard, but I was reading it.
We all break rules.
Or Kiran had written the whole lice episode.
That was my favorite
you know
of all times. I was like, thank God. I know what to do if children get lice, you know, because I grew up in Africa. I had lice all my life.
Yeah, it was, and you know, in my mind, it's like Kiran and George. And Kiran, you don't know how much big of a fan I've been of your, you know, show. So for me, it's like Kiran Fulton saying that I was like, yeah, what humane? How humane is this? And I had
how real.
Completely took that worry and that negativity and toxicity out of my system. I was like, I was laughing my head off. It was a beautiful moment.
And by the way, we all gave really good advice. I know this is a podcast for grief and love, but let me just say that if you have lice, we are the people to come to. Because, you know, everything to do with lice. And then I think 3 weeks later, somebody was like, hey, you guys were talking about lice. Can you tell me? Because now my kids have it. I was like, wow, really good for you. It was beautiful.
That's a great moment. That was. It really took you out of everything.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, now Yasser's puked on me. Now I'm cleaning this. Now I'm that. You know, it was very sort of like whatever. And then it's like lice. Now all of us were like, yay, we can deal with lice. It is a dealable issue. Tumors make but lice. we can do it. So I wanted to read what Seher has written.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, Seher is a beautiful person. Again, somebody I didn't know very well. She is Yasser's very good friend, Seher Asif, and she's one of the fiercest lawyers I know. So if any one of you want a divorce, any one of you wants to take down a corporation, anyone wants to like show, you know, real shade to people who are bothering you, Seher Asif is the person to go to. She says, guys, exclamation mark, I wish I could join. What a force of positivity this group is. And you guys prove the inherent power of every woman to become the source of support and love for other women, even if they're absolute strangers. So I think this was quite beautiful. Over to you, Kiran. What did you most like about this group? What moment was, I think, fun or good for you?
I just loved the crazy randomness of it. I just loved your audacity to say, yeah, I'm going to get people who don't know each other and they're going to can get along because I know it. I just love that.
Literally like that.
I love the confidence.
I don't care if all of you get along. I was literally like, yeah, you guys are here for me. This is my group.
Yeah.
You listen to me.
Yeah. And I've never been a part of a journey like that where I was like, idhar aa, baith idhar, dekh, sun, bol, you know, speak for me, you know. And it was beautiful. It was just beautiful. And like I said, I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot from your vulnerability. I learned a lot from the strength that was behind that vulnerability. I feel really privileged to have met these wonderful people at the ripe old age of 42. You know, it's wonderful to find new friends and to find such like-minded people. And yeah, there is a lot of comfort in knowing that we're not alone in this. You know, it's very easy to feel alone. But it's not, you know, and you've got someone out there who you can speak crazy shit to and they'll be like, yeah, I hear you. You know, and thank you for that, guys. It's been it's a cool journey. The Brene Brownies, we call ourselves now.
Yeah, now we call ourselves Brene Brownies because I was looking for the group. I was like, Tumor, woes, delete ho kya? And then I remembered that I renamed it Brene Brownie because
the Brene Brownies,
you know, the queen of vulnerability. What was it for you, Zarmene? Because it's very hard to impress you. I mean, how do
you have to
who's still up there, you know?
I'm gonna say bye.
Sorry. Bye. Yeah. Actually, you know, for me, what was amazing was community. How quickly what was amazing is that here these strange people all together, and what the power of community is. You know, you create a few people together and there's a community that builds. And then when we started discussing, you know, our own personal things, somebody had an issue about their weight, and then I was talking about my coloring and, you know, all these struggles that we've been through. And it made me realize that, wow, you know, community is so powerful. I've heard Naeem talk about it a lot, and I like to be alone. Okay, I'm a person who likes and Naeem talks power of community. And first time I really felt it was in this group, which was so beautiful. You know, I felt the power. You know, how everybody, when you had an issue and you were going through such a difficult time, Aisha, and I was just seeing the way everybody was there to say what they had to say to you. And then, you know, and it just, wow, you know, it really tells you how just a few people together can make such a difference for anything in life, you know, not just for this, but
I also wanted to say, for me, I think it was the fact that all of you were like doctors. You know, Seher was like, make sure Yasser doesn't put his head down because he's going to throw up the next 3 days. And I was like, whatever. And I made him play golf, indoor golf. And then you saw what happened. He just couldn't stop throwing up, you know? And he ended up in ICU again and almost kicked it, honestly. It was horrible, you know? And then she was like, okay, give him the anti-nausea before he feels nausea, not after he feels nausea. And that fixed it. You know, then you were like, you know, in terms of how to talk to him, you know, you were like have a block of energy around you that doesn't allow his negative energy to impact you because he's sick. You need to, it has to be the other way around. And that helped. Amra was like amazing with work stats. She was like, you know, tell people at work that you're going through this because nobody will know. You try to be too strong. Nobody knows how much pain you're in. It's okay. If
Yeah.
he asks you how you are, don't say I'm good. Just say I'm struggling, but I'm working on it. Amina, I think, was somebody who Seher introduced because she's like, oh, she's in Karachi. She'll help you on ground. I don't even know her, you know, and she was in this group. And I called her once because I was like, Yasser's throwing up. The nausea won't stop. I don't know what to do. Can you please bring khichdi? And she made khichdi. She sent it with a Kareem. And I didn't even realize that she was all the way on the other side of town. Like, we are in Islamabad. We're like, hey, send something. The next 5 minutes, it's at her door. And I didn't realize that she was all the way across the other side of town. And she still sent it, you know, and she booked a Kareem. She didn't tell me I can't do it. I'm too far. I don't have a driver. She was like, yeah, I'm going to make it and send it. It was so beautiful. And Mariam, I think Mariam's somebody who's presently in Argentina, but incredible in terms of her advice to me to stop going into the kitchen because I would always burn things. You know how many pictures of burnt stuff? Because
Yeah.
the stress is so high. What have I burned? Like, I think burnt eggs. I've burned almost everything. I think the toast would just burn every day. And it's because I would put something on the stove and I would be like, okay, that's done now. Right? Because I would not understand. I think I was just cognitively so broken that I thought just because you put something on the stove, it's cooked and now somebody will bring it to me and we'll eat it. And when it's burning, I was like, I wonder what the neighbors are up to, right? It was really that. I think I struggled to a point of not being functional, you know, because you can burn the house down all the time. And you guys put me, you know, kept me through that. And without actually being like, oh, that's pretty crazy. So Mariam was like, stop trying to cook, you know, and that was very important. She was like, so yeah, I cannot imagine going through a very difficult, tragic time where I felt losses after losses after losses without you guys. So Amra, Zarmene, Amina, Seher, Mariam, Sadaf, myself, because sometimes I gave advice to you as well. Thank you. Thank you for this community. And to everybody watching out there, if you're in pain, ask for help and preferably use technology because, you know, they say bad things about technology, but sometimes technology can bring community together from all around the world. And thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.